Hi guys, another Explorer Homage comparison video here. This time I want to do a comparison between the Watch Dive Explorer Homage version 2, priced around 100 USD, and the infamous anus logoed Octopus Kraken Homage, priced around 200 USD, and finally the L'Oreal Falcon, which is more inspired design rather than a homage, but I think it still kind of fits into the category that is priced around 500 USD. So let's go. Dimension-wise, Octopus and the Falcon are 36 millimeters, while the Watch Dive is 37 millimeters. However, as I stated on my comparison video of the Octopus with the Chronos, the Octopus 36 millimeters was much larger than the actual case dimensions. So it's kind of really difficult to tell the size difference between the Octopus 36 millimeters versus the Watch Dive's 37 millimeters. Additionally, Octopus is also the heaviest when it comes to being sized for my 6.5-inch wrist. All the three models have same amount of links, so you do feel that weight difference on your wrist. But interestingly enough, the Octopus is the thinnest out of the three, measuring at 10.5 millimeters thick, while Watch Dives and L'Oreal comes in at 11.2 millimeters thick on my measurements. However, included in that thickness is the Watch Dives 2.5 millimeters of box mineral crystals, as well as L'Oreal Falcon's 2 millimeters of box acrylic crystal. So in actuality, the thinnest of the three is Watch Dives, if you minus the crystals, because for the Octopus, the crystal is severely flat. So as far as which out of the three is the most comfortable, I mean, all three are extremely comfortable, but if I do have to pick one, it would be the Watch Dives. However, I must re-emphasize that all three watches are extremely comfortable. As far as what is driving the watch, the $100 Watch Dive has a VH31 quartz movement that mimics the automatic sweep with 4 beats per second, while the $200 Octopus utilizes the controversial PT5000 movement that beats around 8 beats per second, and finally the most expensive $500 Falcon utilizes the more reliable and slightly more expensive Miura 90S5 movement. I think the winner is dependent on the price point, but I probably would stay clear of the PT5000. If movement reliability is the number one factor in your purchasing decision, I could only just go by my experience, and my experience so far has been a 50% failure rate when it comes to the PT5000 movement. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between the bracelets. The $100 Watch Dive has a decent bracelet, I would say. It isn't rough by any means, but you do feel the edges, especially around the clasp, when comparing with the $200 Octopus or the $500 Falcon. One thing that I would like to call out here is that if you want the Explorer look and feel, Octopus is basically the choice. It has the male end links like the OG versus the Watch Dives and Falcon, which supports the more modern female end links. And the Octopus also has the tri-folding clasp like the OG, while the Watch Dives and Falcon just have no clasp. And speaking of that clasp, from functional purposes, L'Oreal Falcon is the best. Locking and unlocking is a breeze, almost at a San Martin level. San Martin has extremely amazing clasp. The Watch Dive clasp, however, is very finicky, I would say. It takes a little bit of an effort to kind of lock it, much like the Watch Dive 1969 Pro. They needed to pick a better year for that. 1969 is probably not the year that you wanted to go as far as naming your model, but whatever. And there's a lot of stickiness to kind of unlock the clasp for the Watch Dive. So from a comfort and practicality standpoint, Falcon wins hands down, but traditional oyster style bracelet, the Octopus is the choice. And I think Watch Dive comes in pretty distant third in this category for me. Okay, moving on to the case. This is where Watch Dive takes a huge loss. The version that I have for the Watch Dive Explorer Homage is the version 2 with the supposed better case polishing. If this is a better polishing, then I really hate to see the version 1 of this model. Even to the naked eye, there is a obvious uneven bleeding brushing that is happening on the contact point or the edges of the bezel and the case, along with the edges of the bezel and the end links as well. So it's pretty bad. Also, I think when people think about the Explorer, they usually are thinking about the 14270 model. and maybe Watch Dive was going for more of a vintage, like the 1016 with the dome, acrylic crystal, I guess mineral crystal in this case, as an inspiration. But even that model, I believe, had a pretty compact lug to lug, around 43 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. But due to the larger 37 millimeter dimensions of the watch dives for this model, it sports a lug to lug of around 45.4 in my measurement, and is visually really noticeable, especially when you compare it with the Octopus Kraken. Therefore, if you want that, the Temu Rolex experience, I think Octopus is the one to go for, even if it's at a higher price point. Now, the Watch Dive has that mineral crystals that I was talking about, while the Falcon has the acrylic crystals, and then the Octopus has the usual sapphire crystals. I know there are better application of AR coating for sapphire crystals out there, but the Octopus, whoever that was applying this, and I keep saying this over and over when I mention this watch, the AR coating guy had a stroke or something, because this is pretty bad. I can't see shit in sunlight. So when it comes to actual visibility and the crystal, I prefer either the mineral crystals of the watch dives or the acrylic crystals of the Falcon over the sapphire crystal of the Octopus. Maybe not sapphire crystals in general, because again, there are better application of AR coating that has been done on sapphire, but for this particular models that we're talking about, the Octopus AR coating is just plain shit. Now, the final difference that I would like to kind of point out here is that the Falcon has a pretty big magnum size horn style like crown that is really beneficial when it comes to practical purposes. It's really easy to grip and kind of operate the watch with that big crown, versus the Octopus and the watch dive, which supports the regular size crown. So I would say initially when I got the Falcon, I was a little bit thrown off by the large crown, but I have begun to really, really love that big crown, not only from just functional purposes, but from aesthetic as well. It just looks kind of funky, and I really, really enjoy it. So that's the difference that I'd probably like to call out. I don't know who the winner is when it comes to the case, but the definite loser in this category is watch dives by far. Okay, so for the dial, I'm going to keep this section fairly short, because the dial is more subjective than anything. As far as whether you like it or not. Watch dial is a bit too empty for my taste. Even on a 36 millimeter, it will look kind of empty, but on a 37 millimeter, I think it kind of exaggerates it. Bit on the no man's land when it comes to the design. It doesn't outright copy the layout like the Octopus does with the OG, but it doesn't really distinguish itself from the original like the Falcon does. So it's kind of there in the middle, not doing either of it really well. For me personally, I prefer the Falcon design because I love the originality, where it just takes the inspiration from the Explorer, but it puts its own spin on it. But you might be part of that crowd that wants something that kind of looks like the Explorer, but not total carbon copy of it. If that's the case, then the watch dive is for you. But I think for majority of the people that are seeking an homage, they're seeking a clomage, meaning like they want to have a carbon copy of the Explorer without the carbon copy of the Explorer price. So, I think for majority of the people, they would probably prefer the Octopus, even with that butthole logo. Okay, so in conclusion, I am personally keeping the L'Oreal Falcon. I will most likely also keep the Octopus Kraken, but I'm definitely flipping the watch dives. Maybe I'll give it away on this channel when I hit 1,000 subscribers or something like that. But the biggest deciding factor for many when it comes to purchasing these watches are the price point. And for a lot of people, $500 might be out of the budget for a watch, especially if you're looking for either the Octopus or the watch dives. That's more than double the price point. So the Falcon might be just out of the running. So if it's between the watch dives and the Octopus, I would recommend the Octopus over the watch dives all day, every day. Even if it's $100 more, which is basically double the price point, I think it's totally worth it, because the majority of the people who are seeking an homage nowadays are looking to, for lack of a better word, just have a counterfeiting experience without actually legally counterfeiting. And Octopus Kraken basically fits that right to the T when it comes to the Rolex Explorer. So that's the watch that I would recommend for majority of the people, even though I personally like the L'Oreal Falcon better. So you have to get over that logo that looks like a warning sign for sodomy. But if you could get over that, I think the Octopus Kraken is the choice for majority of the people. All right, so that's it. If you like the video, like and subscribe and all that stuff, and peace.